I knew in my pre-birth experience that being given the chance to play a human was like being given $1 million lottery ticket. That's how beautifully rare and powerful it was, because the leverage opportunity here is so high. And to play a human during the awakening is like the coolest, craziest. It's like an extreme sport. Okay. And we are the fortunate ones who are like actually being given a chance to like really get in the mess and play this exciting game. And I know it doesn't seem exciting when the pain is really high and we're in the midst of like gross mayhem and, suffering. But the thing is that the great set of limitations that gave rise to that much potential fear and suffering can be worked through and processed and healed. And there's so much tasty, deep expansion potential available in that.
Welcome to Soul Explorers with your hosts, Gary Langley and Sally Taylor. Welcome to Soul Explorers. Today, Sally and I are pleased to bring to you Christian Sundberg. Christian has had some amazing experiences, both in this life and prior to this life, and he's written a book about it, A Walk in the Physical. Christian, we're really glad to have you here. How are
Thank
you?
you so much. It's great to be here. I'm good. Thank you.
Thanks.
Oh, we're very pleased to have you and to hear a little bit of your story. And one of the things that I know about you, which is unusual or not like everybody, is that you have pre-birth memory.
Yes.
And that has led to a lot of your spiritual exploration as well as your understanding. Tell us a little bit about how that has all occurred.
How it has occurred, like how it arose.
Yeah, what's the story behind, you actually
Sure.
having a recognition that you have, pre-birth
Yeah,
memory?
sure. So, my body is 45 years old right now. And when I was 30, I took up a long-term meditation practice and didn't expect anything from it. I just at first pursued the practice because it brought a lot of peace. It was a joyful thing to do. And after a few months, I had a non-physical experience, an out-of-body experience. It was very eye-opening for me, very shocking. And so I kept going down that path. And sometime later, I don't know exactly when, but probably within a few months of that, I began to have the pre-birth memory return. It was all just kind of there, kind of all at once, like if someone blew leaves off of the ground and the ground was just there. And I realized that I actually had some of that pre-birth memory as a young child, like up until the age of 5. And I used to think on it and draw upon it very early in my life, like when I was 2, 3, 4 years old. And then that memory left me completely by the age of 5. But once it had returned to me, I was like, "Oh my gosh, that's right. I used to I used to remember this and draw upon this, and I knew this is where we came from, but of course I completely forgot." That's very normal here on Earth to completely forget and become associated with the human experience. Yep.
Do you think that everybody holds some of that memory while they're young and then lose it like you kind of described that you did, around 5, 6 years old? Do you think that's true for most children and you just happen to be lucky enough to kind of find that memory again as an adult? Or do you think even that experience was unusual for you?
I can at least say that very young children are much closer to their higher natures because the form association is not as deep.
Mhm.
So we all accept the veil even as we incarnate. So we're all veiled, even like from the moment that incarnation has begun. But the veil is more like just an obscuring. It's not actually um, separating us from our higher nature, actually. The thing that really solidifies that sense of separation is the identification with the thoughts, the story, the identity. And very young children don't have that yet.
Yeah.
So it's common for babies or young children to tap into that higher nature or have out of body experiences. That's very normal because they're not quite as form associated yet. Um, but I can't speak for any other children. I do know that in my pre birth experience, I did ask to have a very small amount of memory. So I know that was at least part of what I wanted to experience.
Was the catalyst. Yeah. It reminds me of a story of parents that had a newborn and a 5-year-old,
Mhm.
and they had a baby monitor in the room. And they hear the 5-year-old go in, talk to the baby, and say, "You have to remind me about God. I'm starting to forget."
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah, my sister had twins, and one of them was a boy who used to say things to my sister about memory he had. And I went over to his house and I said, he was really young. I don't know exactly how old, but he was quite young. And I remember kneeling down and looking at him and saying, Alex, you have to try to not forget. Like, you really have to try to not forget because you're going to forget. And he's like, no, I won't. I'm like, yes, you will. Yes, you will, man. That's, he's forgotten. Um, yeah.
And I think that may be part of the process that we're expected to go through in life, isn't it? You've
Yes.
talked a lot about the veil and how you experience the veil and understand the veil. Is that
Yeah.
veil something that continues to sort of take hold and take effect as children age, do you think?
So the veil is always there. It's organic to the individual. It's just that because of the veil, when we become associated into form, the effectiveness of it seems to be more firm or increased. But the veil itself, in broad terms, didn't actually change. The veil can be tweaked, but in general terms, the veil is just a set of limitations we've bought into, and it's a part of the human physical experience. But what happens is consciousness is identifying with form. And
Mm.
that is the true separator. That's the true, like, oh, I'm just the human. I'm just this name. I'm just this job. I have just this feeling right now. I really want to eat a sandwich right now. That then you are the being who wants to eat the sandwich. That's what you are. You aren't the whole universe. You're the sandwich wanting being, you know. So the veil remains throughout that whole process. It's received and accepted even at the very beginning of incarnation. And it is one heck of a set of limitations in consciousness.
it is.
But it's quite neutral. It is rigorous, but it's actually quite neutral. And it just allows us to have this experience of immersion. It enables immersion, you could say.
And we have the ability to break free of it.
So we're already on the other side of it. So I wouldn't phrase it as breaking free from the veil, and except through death, physical death that happens, because the limitations fall away with the limitations of the body. Um, but we always, yes, can step past the
That's
veiled
what I meant. Yeah,
part of ourselves. I'm just careful with the language,
sure.
because we already exist on the other side right now. Like, I know that sounds really wild, but
No,
we actually do. Okay, so like the veiled portion of us may remain, and yet the human personality portion of the self can step beyond the veil and have experiences. Yes, that's very much possible because we're already there.
yeah. The
So
the
do you
greater part of us, actually.
Yes, the much greater part of us is already there. That's right. This is like a very small, focused partition of the self.
so do you mind sharing that part of your story about the veil? Because to me, that's a really interesting
Sure.
piece of how you became the, I'll say, teacher that you are today, is because of your experience with and your memory of accepting the veil.
Hmm.
Do you mind sharing that with us?
Sure. So I remember accepting the veil for two life experiences, both the one it just immediately preceding this life, even though, okay, I have to disclaim really quickly that language can't speak to any of this. So I can do my best, but language is form. It's symbols that are based in our local world. So I just have to say that because our true nature so fully transcends all the limitations of Earth, including like linear time. Okay. So that when we use language, as soon as we use that, we're just like wrong. So just a quick disclaimer there. I think that really is important to always say first. So with that disclaimer being said, I remember accepting the veil for two life experiences, the life immediately before this one and this life experience. And the acceptance of the veil was a very similar experience in both cases, where I went from a state of being in which my awareness, the body of my awareness, was connected to all things. I could feel in my knowing, in my being, was all things, and I had access to all knowledge and an incredible amount of what I call high vibration bliss, high vibration meaning closer to the source of all things, which is total love and peace and freedom and joy. And then through the acceptance of the veil, this state of limitations being placed upon me like a cloak, like a veil. That's just a metaphor, of course, but it's like a cloak that was placed upon me and wrapped around me that felt like a plummet in vibration, down, 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 lower, 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 more, lower, more, and then when it feels like you could be at the bottom, more, and then lower, more, and then lower, 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 lower. Like keep going. Like it was like that. And as that occurred, all of my knowing disappearing, being cut off, and my sense of connectedness disappearing, and suddenly being in a state which I can only describe as being very cold, not physically cold, but energetically cold, and like being shoved inside of a tiny metal can. That's what it felt like to be in the body and to have my knowing like not there. So I couldn't access all that I was any longer. And it was an extremely limiting state. So now in my current adult life as a human walking around, I actually can feel the veil right now. Ever since my awakening and since these experiences returned, I'm looking right at it. It's right there. And the metaphor I like to use for it, this is a little playful because I've been tapping on the glass here, but the metaphor is it's like in those cop shows where there's like someone being interviewed by the police and they're in a room where the police can like look in at the person, but then they can't look back out. From inside the room, the glass is one side, one way, so they can't see out of the room anymore, but the glass is there. So the veil feels like that to me. It's kind of like an obscuring, rigorously consistent set of limitations that are like a one-sided glass. Like you can't look that way. But of course, that side is watching us all the time. So it's just a
Right.
simple metaphor, but I can feel that on and in my consciousness. And sometimes I even feel like I am pushing on it because I know it's there, so I can. But it holds very firm. It's very it's very effective.
Christian, it's been a while, probably a couple of years since I read your book, but I seem to remember the story of you actually chickening out on a reincarnation. Is that true?
Yes.
Can you talk to us about that and what your memories of that are, as best you can put it in
Yeah.
language?
Yeah. So it's fair to use the words chicken out for this experience. For me, it was actually it feels I actually feel a sense of mourning around it because so in the previous experience after I'd accepted the veil, I responded out of fear immediately because I was like, this is so limiting. This is so dense. This is so dark. Like, I am not doing this. And I had fear rise up. And from the fear, I was responding in a way in which I summoned my might and I smote the veil. It was like punching my way back out, like, screw this. I am not doing this. Like, I'm just going to break my way out because I know I'm a powerful being. I'm going to summon all my strength and break it. And I did. I succeeded at breaking it. But as soon as I did that, I realized that in so doing, I had killed the fetus that was to be my body. So that life just before this one, the body had never been born. I was still in the body. I'm sorry, in the womb, in the body in the womb when I rejected the veil, and that caused a miscarriage. I had a life review, just like near-death experiencers describe, where I could see how my choice affected the mother, and not only the mother, but hundreds of other people who the mother would impact. I could see like ripples in a pond, how my one choice, that fear, had made hundreds of other people's journeys more difficult. Yeah.
That's a key point because everything we do in life has that ripple effect.
Yes, absolutely. I'm
And,
actually
and
planning on speaking this coming Sunday, this weekend. I'm going to be speaking at a Unity church nearby, and the name of that talk is "Ripples in the Pond," and I'm going to focus on this topic because it's been on my mind, and it is very important. Yes, ripples in a pond, exactly. Every single thing we do,
I mean,
small and large.
yes, how we treat somebody, the simple act of smiling at someone, that
Yes,
has a ripple effect. People don't realize that. If they did, they'd live very differently, I think.
Yes. I want to lift up two mechanisms of those ripples. One is the action itself.
Mhm.
So however you physically affected them, and however that may have registered at the human level. So if you smile, that has a physical effect because they see it, they recognize it, it may allow them to feel more loved. That's beautiful. It is absolutely beautiful. It's not about size, it's about quality, okay? But then the second part of this, which is also active, is the quality of the intention itself is like a vibration that has an effect. So just choosing to act from love, from unconditional love, or choosing to face your own fear and process your own crap and grow up. And those look like two different things. They're actually synonymous because once we choose to process our fear, we actually are more enabling ourselves to be our true selves, which is love. So in both cases, as we have the willingness to do that and wield that quality of intention, that actually has an effect itself in energy space. It actually creates a ripple that can be felt, so to speak, and actually nudges the probabilities of how everything around us manifests and actualizes, actually. So I'm just lifting that up because we are all very powerful. And to your point, the little things are really important, not just in that they have an effect on someone in physical space, but in that we are wielding an intention that has an effect and it touches the whole universe. I know it sounds crazy, right? But even one little smile, one loving gesture, it touches everything. And in that sense, we are very powerful beings. Like it is not a situation of hopelessness. A lot of people feel like, oh, I can't make a big impact.
No.
Yes, you can. Yes, you can.
As a friend of mine, a near-death experiencer who's now on the other side, Tom Sawyer. I don't know if you've ever read about his story, but he came back with incredible knowledge after his near-death experience. But he said the flapping of a butterfly's wings has an effect around the world.
Yes.
It's that subtle because everything's energy. And I think you'd agree with that. It's all
Yes.
an energy interplay, which is why it becomes very hard to put this into words, into languaging. So,
Yes, that's true. And I'll lift up one small example of that I experienced, which made that even more concrete for me. I was in a meditation circle one time, and I was in an altered state. I was clear, and the woman next to me said something about China, and her sentence ended in the word China. And when it did, I saw and felt and heard her thought. I saw it. It had a momentum to it. It was a thing. The thought was a thing. Reach around the world and touch all that was China. Like I saw it, I felt it. And I was like, oh my gosh, every thought has a mass, has a momentum. It's doing something. It's touching something. So yeah, I just thought I mentioned that because it is a real thing. It can be perceived in higher states of consciousness that that's happening all the time.
yes.
And you don't need to know even necessarily what that effect is. Just being your true, authentic, hopefully loving self
Amen.
will help that shift to occur. So that said, a lot of
Mhm.
spiritual teachers talk about a shift going on in the world right now.
Mhm.
Have you received sort of guidance or information on this shift that we seem to be undergoing, and
Mhm.
how do you understand that?
Yeah. So in my pre-birth experience, I actually was just aware, very matter of factly, that it was like the act of the play where we're going to try to wake up. So, I mean, that's just crude language, but that's where the term awakening comes from, is this repeat messaging that many have received from their higher selves on the other side that the human race is going through a profound change right now. That change is a shift from very old, persistent, tenacious, old fear-based patterning ideas, thought patterning, to a much higher vibration state where we process that. And as we process it, which means getting it out on the surface and seeing how ugly it is and actually working through it, as we process that, also more and more, many individuals and the collective waking up in greater measure to who we always were and are. And as we do that, the vibrational distance between the source and where we came from and where we are now decreases. Now, it's still a huge distance, okay? We're still talking about a huge vibrational distance. But the thing is, even 1 inch of movement, so to speak, in the physical, even changing, it's like changing the temperature of an ocean. So if the ocean is at a certain low temperature, if you change the entire ocean half a degree, that's a big deal. It changes all the ecosystems, right? That's a good metaphor for what we're doing now on Earth. The pond, the great pond of the human collective consciousness and the Earth's collective consciousness, all of this is increasing in temperature. And as that happens, it means the old cold crap, the low vibration fear crap, the ice chunks that are still in there, they have to come up to be seen and melted. So it looks tumultuous on the surface, but it's actually a period of beautiful transition and a move towards greater freedom and clarity.
And love.
Absolutely love, because love is our true nature. So when I say towards more our authentic selves and greater clarity, that is synonymous with more love, because love is the truth. So as we see more clearly and know ourselves more clearly, we are able to see and actualize love. That's what this is all about. This whole simulation is about love. It's all about choosing love, actualizing love, understanding love, receiving love, and that is synonymous with the processing of fear.
Hey, thanks for watching. If you're enjoying these conversations and want to explore more perspectives on spirituality, mediumship, channeling, NDEs, and personal growth, hit that subscribe button. It really helps us bring you more amazing guests with unique stories to share. And we'd love to hear from you in the comments. What's your experience been? What topics should we explore next? Your engagement helps other soul explorers find us. Thanks for being part of this journey. Now back to the show. I was going to say, as challenging as it might seem, with regard to this tumultuous surface of the ocean that we seem to be finding ourselves swimming in, is actually something to be excited about.
Oh, yes. So can I make a quick comment on that? Because
yes.
in my pre-birth experience, I know that a lot of us are really suffering, and I'm not making light of the suffering. And in fact, I've gone through 2 crises in my own life in the last 3 months that have been 2 of the most painful crises of my entire life. Like I can't, both of them. Like it has been, I am not making light of the incredible depths of pain and suffering that happen on Earth. Okay. Even as I knew in my pre-birth experience that being given the chance to play a human was like being given $1 million lottery ticket. That's how beautifully rare and powerful it was, because the leverage opportunity here is so high. And to play a human during the awakening is like the coolest, craziest. It's like an extreme sport. Okay. And we are the fortunate ones who are like actually being given a chance to like really get in the mess and play this exciting game. And I know it doesn't seem exciting when the pain is really high and we're in the midst of like gross mayhem and, suffering. But the thing is that the great set of limitations that gave rise to that much potential fear and suffering can be worked through and processed and healed. And there's so much tasty, deep expansion potential available in that.
Yes. And because of what we go through here, our greatest growth comes from that. It's like we expand and grow more for having gone through. As you know, my house burned down in January. I'm still not in my new house. I'm still homeless. But a huge amount of growth came out of that. Yeah, it was painful. I lost everything. Well, guess what? Those were only attachments. And it's okay because I'm going to lose them anyway at some point down the road. So in some ways that's very freeing. And I think all of our challenges bring us to a level of growth that we maybe can't actualize on the other side.
Yes, that's true. I'm really sorry to hear about your loss.
Yeah.
It's very interesting how when we are hit by profound losses like that, and I equate one of the 2 recent crises I experienced, it was a social crisis that I'm not at liberty to discuss publicly, but it was like that, like what you just described. Very, very painful, huge loss happening.
Mhm.
That is very shocking to the form associated personality of the self. But to the deeper self, it is a burning away, sorry for the metaphor,
Oh,
of
for,
that which we are not.
Mhm.
We don't take any of that with us. We don't take our identity. We don't take our money. We don't take our body. So it is a huge opportunity. And the metaphor I like to use, this is overly used perhaps, but I think it's a good metaphor, is it's like lifting a weight on a weight bench. You might only have 50 pounds on your bench right now, or maybe you have 200 on your bench right now. Maybe you have 1,000. The thing is, it's not that the weight is evil. It's just a limiting circumstance. It's just a challenging circumstance. The question is, what do you do with it? Do you push it up? How do you push it up? How do you choose love in this? How do you choose acceptance? How do you choose willingness to feel in this? How do you face your fear in this? That is lifting up the weight. And when you do that with 1,000 pounds, even 1 inch, you are accomplishing more in that 1 inch of lifting than you could in countless amounts of time in a much less limiting system.
Mhm.
So in that sense, the physical is like a profound offering. It's like being given the most leveraged growth opportunity possible. And it's so amazing. Yeah.
Yeah. And we have free will because we have a choice. We can go to victimhood, which
Hmm.
does not precipitate in growth, or we can choose to, okay, let go and surrender.
Absolutely. That's what you just named, victimhood versus acceptance, is one, we could say, axis
Mhm.
of choice. There are many others like that.
Sure.
Shame versus love, freedom versus trapped. There's so many ways that we have the opportunity to choose that which is more in alignment with our true nature.
Mhm.
Now, and that choice, like you said, it might not feel easy. In fact, in fact, fear, which is just a simple word we use for the rejection of all that stuff, all the smallness that, oh, I'm a victim because look at how shameful I am. Look, I'm a victim because look, this proves that I don't have worth. Like whatever the fear-based rejective reasoning is, that is all just a symptom. It's just yet unevolved in this. It doesn't actually have its own substance to it. And so I like to say that fear is the only hard thing in all of reality. There's nothing actually hard
Right.
except except that we reject it, except that we don't like it.
Mhm.
You see, that's the only hard thing, is that we say, oh, no, no, F that. I'm not doing that. That is the only hard thing, is that our own rejection. So I'm not saying it's easy. In fact, fear is hard. But the thing is, we always have that opportunity. We always have the ability to make that choice with whatever has arisen. And that's super powerful. Even a small move in the direction of actually accepting what's arisen and actually choosing love is so powerful. And we don't necessarily see that as the human character. But I'm telling you, now is the opportunity. Now, right now, like we're here, we're physical.
Yeah.
This is
Yeah.
the chance. It's great.
Yeah, I agree with you. We've been given an incredible opportunity to be on the planet at this time.
We
So,
have.
And courage doesn't exist without fear. I mean, the fear gives us the opportunity to find that act of courage within ourselves and it may just be an act of courage for acceptance or for freedom or any of the other sort of
Mhm.
dualities that you were just speaking about.
Yeah,
Yeah,
just
yeah,
real quick. When I use the word fear, it's the only word we've got. I don't mean only fear in the traditional sense of like I'm afraid of, a spider. I'm
right.
talking about like fear as in the negative self-perception that reality seems to have proven to us, and we reject that and we don't like that and we have not processed that, we're going to bury it. That's fear. So the nature of that negative self-perception could be anything that is
Yeah.
not in alignment with the truth.
yeah.
That's the key. So if we are loved, we are unconditionally loved. We are celebrated as beings. Like we actually are. Whoever is listening to this today, please be reminded, like for real, you are loved and celebrated. It is not just a woo-woo fairy tale thing. It's rich, alive, real now. But in the physical, when something might prove to you like, oh, no, you're not worthy of love. Maybe your parents raised you a certain way and all of your love was conditional. That's something I've been working through recently with someone close to me, like really deeply. That when that happens, what do you choose then? That is a fear because now it's like, oh, I'm shameful, I'm shameful, I'm shameful. And then the fear is the rejection of the perception. So I'm just lifting that up because it could be any negative self perception that's not in alignment with the truth that we end up rejecting. And we always can actually turn back toward it, find out what it is, see it, face it, and heal it.
Yeah. And I think you're making a distinction that I say slightly differently, but
Hmm.
making the distinction between fear of an event,
Hmm.
like, oh, I don't like spiders, or there's a bear chasing me. That's
Hmm.
survival fear, body fear.
Hmm.
And the other is psychological fear. We create all these stories and have fear attached
Hmm.
to them, but they're not real, unless we actualize them somehow. But so psychological fear is what we need to let go of. So we are.
Yeah, they're actually both ultimately connected to the one fear. The distinction is appropriate. It's good. It's a fine distinction. Um, this is maybe a technicality, just to mention that a very enlightened, aware being
Mhm.
can run from the bear and have no fear.
Right, right.
You know,
Unfortunately, there aren't a whole lot of
I
those.
know, I know.
We need more.
There
So
are there are more than we identify, but yes, it is pretty rare on Earth. Yeah.
we all need to be working towards those goals, I think. Go ahead, Sally. I see you have a question.
Oh, well, no, I'm just sitting here as you guys are talking. I'm thinking about my own experiences of different kinds of fear in my life. And they
Hmm.
are generally around the conditioning that I had growing up,
Hmm.
right? That,
Yep.
you know, guilt worked really well on me as a kid. If I, knew
Uh,
I wasn't living up to my parents' expectations, I had a lot of guilt and shame attached to that. And it was partly something I think that was conditioned into me. It was partly my temperament, my personality, my
hmm.
desire to be a good girl, you
Hmm.
know? And when you do that, not either through conditioning or just through your own mental processes, you give yourself reasons to reject your true nature.
Hmm.
It's really not something that you can blame somebody else for. It's
Yeah,
something that you bought into.
yeah, those are great comments, and I'll just mention that. So if you think of it like, okay, this is a little crude way to put it, but let's think of it like your soul has certain qualities and levels of virtue or something you could say. So you understand. I don't want to differentiate you from your soul because you are your soul right now. So you as a being, you understand certain things and you're strong in certain areas and maybe not as strong in others. We come to Earth very often precisely to have the circumstances presented to us that will challenge the parts that are not strong yet. Okay. So, so it's not necessarily true. Well, in fact, it's just simply not true that every being would react to the same upbringing in the same way. And once we're in that upbringing and experiencing that conditioning, and yes, it may be deep, very deep here in the physical. Like we believe everything our parents tell us. They're like gods when we're little kids. We listen to
Right.
everything. They form us. You always have a choice how to respond, even in the beginning, even though you don't like may not be super conscious of it. As we evolve as beings over lifetimes, we become increasingly aware, increasingly um, intuitively wise, increasingly able to see immediately what has been presented to us with clarity and to respond in a way that is more loving and less fearful. And, like I'm sure we've each seen children, certain children, who maybe are like overly wise for their years and they kind of learn quick. Like they don't have to, like my daughter is kind of like this. Like she just everything first time handed to her. Yep, I know that already. Done. Next. You know what I mean? Like this is not her first time. She's like, yeah, she already knows all these things, not just as ideas, but like as qualities of decision making. She's already got all that. And that kind of happens because we've already walked through the game. And yes, every time we have to start over with no intellectual knowledge at the personality level. That's good. That's actually part of the point. But then that being evolves as it goes from experience to experience. And when it's handed a new set, it will respond differently than it did before. So that's important to lift up.
So that brings up another topic for me then that I've thought about when reading your material and your story, because you've talked about having out of body experiences, you've talked about pre-birth memory.
Hmm.
And my question then is around your sense of identity
Hmm.
within those experiences. And how are we meant to understand our identity and how much we carry forward with us as opposed to how much we release with the body?
Carry forward as in identity as form association, like how much of our
As a
form is us.
as form association or as a soul,
Hmm.
and how much of our personality goes with us, how much of,
Hmm.
those lessons and the ways that it changes us goes forward with
Okay.
us
So
and
the
forms identity.
okay. Well, first of all, the soul takes with it its quality of being. So I like how in Tom Campbell's model, the physicist and consciousness explorer, his model is highly focused on, he has acronyms for this stuff. He calls the soul the IUOC, the individuated unit of consciousness, and the personality that you're playing, your free will awareness unit, your FWAU. And so he talks about how the soul has its own history, its own qualities, and then it's operating through an FWAU that might have conditioning that's specific to it. So, but the IUOC, the soul, is evolving throughout all experience and taking that experience with it. Now, so when we talk about identification, let's not talk about identification as a noun itself. Let's talk about identity first as a noun. What is our actual identity? It's actually not the form. So I know that's super confusing when we relate to and even love our form. We love being male or female. We love having a name, right? But what you actually are is the love. You're actually the thing that experiences having a name, having a sex, having a life, having form, appreciating sunsets. And as you love those things, it's okay. It's beautiful. You're actually adding to all that is by loving them. But your true identity is the consciousness that knows those things. And in total clarity, like as we move in meditation towards clarity, we just discover experientially, oh my gosh, I am not my thoughts. I am not my story. I am the I that I am. There's no words for this. I am the clear life itself, the spacious awareness itself. That's what I am. That is true identity. That true identity is both individuated as you, as your soul, which is, I like to say, the you that feels like you to you. So that's a simple way of putting your true identity. Your true identity is the you that feels like you to you, and one with the whole, oneness with the whole. That is your true identity as well. Okay. The thing is, in the physical, the you that feels like you to you gets wrapped up in things. And so then we think, I am a body. I am a name. I have eyes. Is it eyes that see? No, it's consciousness that sees. Yeah, sure. In the physical, we need eyeballs, we need a lens, we need a brain to process visual data, and that's all part of the rule set. That's cool. Who are you? You're the consciousness that experiences that content. So that's all to say, when we go to another system of reality, there are new rules. There's new sensory input. In fact, sensory data that's usually far more rich than this. This is like black and white movie by comparison. This is like nothing. But who are you there? You're still you. You're the exact same you. You're not somebody else. In fact, when we talk about reincarnation, I think sometimes people think, oh, well, I was other people. Oh man, like I had this epiphany after meditating one day where I saw hundreds of lives that I had lived, and I knew they were not other people. It was just me. Like the me that feels like me to me did those things. It was like if you went to dinner on Monday night and went to movies on Tuesday night and went rock climbing on Wednesday night. Which one is you? Are you the movie watcher or are you the rock climber? Both. You did those things.
So
Yeah.
would you say it is your individuation that persists as opposed to your identity?
Your true identity is your individuation itself, and that individuation itself is not limited. It is life and love and joy unbounded. So your true identity is bliss.
It's so important to be aware of being aware. In other words, and that I've coined that phrase from one of my favorite teachers, but to be just stop and be aware of being aware, because we miss that so often.
Yes.
And
Yes.
that's you. That awareness that you're aware of, that's you.
Yes, that's true. We are the awareness. And what you just described is another way to describe meditation,
Mhm.
which is that we move towards alertness itself, awareness itself. We investigate awareness with awareness. We turn back to the thing that is.
Mhm.
In so doing, it's like waking up. And I did not mean to wake up to some new form when I began to meditate. It's just that I went and investigated. One thing Tom Campbell said in his work that I think is so valuable, he said, just go find out, go look. Don't make anything up. Don't
Right.
and so I like to say, don't settle for thoughts.
Right.
Don't settle for thoughts. It's okay if thoughts arrive and you think, oh, am I meditating? Am I a person who meditates now? What am I feeling now? That's okay. That's fine. Keep going. Keep looking closer, gently, without expectation, without any expectation, just clarity. Explore, just spend time every day, spend energy every day. Look. And then the way I've experienced it is not that I go get that higher awareness. The way I've experienced it is that as I look towards awareness and look away from the movie, the larger awareness rises up on its own and I unfold. Not because I tried. It's kind of like I've heard it said, awakening is an accident, but meditation makes you accident prone. I like that. I like that description because it's
That's a
like
good one.
you don't know that you can't sit there and think a thought, I'm going to awaken. But in going and with openness and willingness and with the quality of intention to actually explore and see, the larger part of yourself will arise and unfold very much naturally on its own. And then you find experientially, I am not the thoughts. I am all that is. I am bliss and spaciousness that is very real. It's not just empty, it's full. It's very rich and there's no words for this. Like I mean, I wrote A Walk in the Physical in part because I was deeply, deeply in passion and desire to like express what we are, and it can't be done. It cannot be done. But some synonyms we can use for it are life itself, love itself, bliss, freedom, joy, spaciousness, vibrance. There's no words for it. That stuff transcends form. So how do you describe it? So anyway, so that is our identity. Everything we just tried to articulate somehow, that is our true identity. Now it's okay that all that spaciousness, all that beauty has fallen asleep into I'm a worker on a Friday at 1:42 in the afternoon. That's okay. That's okay. But can we choose to take the time to re-explore that? So another simple thing I might say there is, in simple terms, smallness hurts. Form association hurts. Believing something that you're not hurts. So when someone says, well, why meditate? Because joy is wonderful. Because freedom is your true nature and it's freaking wonderful.
It is.
And it empowers your life. Like, are you so busy being miserable that you will have to be more miserable? Okay. Like, I know it's a little bit of an unfair way to put it because we do have demands in our lives, but I just mean like, there's never actually a reason we can't put down all the crap.
Right. But some people they thrive on being miserable, and that's
So,
never
quick
happened.
comment there. It seems like that.
Yeah,
And yes, that's a fair thing to say in the small picture. There are people who thrive on being miserable. Really what it is the ego thrives on its protections.
right.
And that simply is synonymous with saying people thrive on not processing their fear because fear is harder than whatever they're choosing now.
Oh,
So they thrive on choosing the easier thing now in being separated from their fear and not facing it and feeling it and taking ownership.
Ownership is a really good word. And for me, you talked about meditation a good bit, and for me, it's addictive almost in that the sense of, I guess peace is a good word. It's not quite the right word. Bliss. I think you said bliss. When you get into a truly meditative state, that sense of bliss that you might just have your awareness focused on for 20 minutes moves throughout the rest of your day. And it impacts your connection to the greater field of awareness throughout the day.
it affects those ripples we were talking about, because you're influenced by that. So, yeah,
Absolutely, because you are, a way we could put it is that you are bringing the much higher vibration, fully alive energy down into the system.
right.
And so you are rippling out that energy without even knowing it. You meditate and go into the grocery store. You've just affected everyone in the store.
Talk a little bit about the paradox between coming to have this very veiled physical experience, but then opening to the greater reality and, kind of deepening our awareness of more subtle worlds, more subtle fields of
Mhm.
information. How do you understand that dichotomy?
Sure. So there is no actual paradox. Paradox only happens when we're trying to understand from a smaller perspective of duality, where there can only be this and not that. And when we stick them both together in the same time, that's a paradox.
Mhm.
That's the only time paradox can happen. If you actually see with clarity, there are no paradoxes. All is as it is. Okay. So to your point, though, here in the physical, the very thing we're doing is engaging duality. We're having the experience of duality, up and down, left and right, hot and cold. I'm a man and not a woman, or whatever, just in my case. So, in that context, if your question is, how do we relate to the larger non dual self from within it? And is that a paradox? It's actually not a paradox because the non dual is fundamental and true and real, and the dual is not actually. It's actually occurring within the non dual. So, there's only one thing happening, not two things. Until we realize that and we think there are two things, and which is duality itself, and we're basically thinking from a dualistic perspective, fine. That's totally fine. We can then work through, integrate through the content of duality the best we can. We can enjoy it. And in fact, enjoying duality is itself a move back towards ultimately the non dual. It's like when you really taste the cake, when you really actually feel the pain, even really feel the pain,
Mhm.
you find in your non-rejection, it's all made of bliss. So there is no actual dichotomy. Now, I know we get lost in the pain. I do too. We get lost in the suffering. I do too. Is it real unto itself? If it feels like it, it's okay. We can be gentle with ourselves. We can just note, oh, wow, I'm form associated really deeply. I really think I'm in trouble here. I really think this is terrible. This is a terrible situation. Look how terrible this is. I've had a couple of those recently that are like really loud. I think of it like volume. How loud is this situation in my consciousness right now? Really loud. If you're having a heart attack, guess what? It's really loud. It's not a quiet experience of pain, you know. So we may have very loud things that have arisen in our awareness right now. What do we do with it? What do we choose? That quality of how we relate to it is the thing that is real, doing something with it. And in that, there is no actual dichotomy. I hope that speaks to your question. If not, please hone me in.
No, I think that's a really good answer. Thank you for that.
So, Christian, what are you doing now? Are you teaching any courses, classes? Are you planning on writing another book? Which,
So, yeah, right now, so first, there are some personal things I'm working through right now. The crises I mentioned are demanding a lot of attention and emotional focus.
Mhm.
So that's okay. That's what's happening now. I also, for now, I'm working in a focused mainstream professional way, like I have been for most of the last 23 years. But I intend in the next, I'm not sure how long, so much time, to move more fully into this work. I know it's going to happen, and I'm just letting that play out as it should. But in the meantime, even as I'm like working in a mainstream capacity, I'm still active in this capacity. I love doing podcasts. I like doing one-on-ones when I have time with people. I like going to events like the IANS conference every year, the International Association for Near-Death Studies. I love that conference. It's absolutely amazing. It was in Chicago a couple months ago. So I love operating in that capacity. But I also have always felt clearly in my own walk that it's not about scope. Like in my professional life, I'm a project manager. So it's all about the plans, the scope, the definition, the accomplishing the tasks, meeting the milestones, metrics, etc. That is not the way that I have felt called to serve. The
Right.
service is done in a quality and very naturally, and not about scope. And so through that, I don't know what that will mean is the simple answer to your question, because if I follow that quality of intention and just allow things to unfold, they do. So that is really what I mean to do.
That's a beautiful level of trust. And, I had a thought cross my mind shortly before we get on with you. And I'm like, with all of the wisdom that you have been able to share through your book and through the podcasts and things that you do, it occurred to me that you are the Wayne Dyer of a new generation. So I don't know if anybody else has suggested that to you, but you do have a great level of awareness that I think is helping the world to shift right now. So really, we're grateful for all that you do. Where can people find more about you if they're interested?
Sure. So my website is awalkinthephysical.com, awalkinthephysical.com. The book is available to be read online for free at the third link down on the book page. So it's not about money, but it's also on Amazon or Audible as an audiobook. I do try to respond to emails, but I have like hundreds that I haven't been able to get to yet. But it's awalkinthephysical@gmail.com. I apologize if I don't respond, but I'd like to try to if I can. And I'm generally, I'd love to interact and help people. It's just life is full.
I
So yeah.
understand. Yeah. Well, we really are grateful that you're willing to get on and just share a little bit of your story and the ways that you have come to the clarities that you have about the nature of life and why we're here. Do you have any final things you would like to share with our audience
Yeah, sure.
before we're
I'll just
done?
share that I know this sounds abstract and non-literal, non-specific, but you really aren't actually a human, okay? Like wherever you are listening today, you're actually a multidimensional being of love. You really are. It's not a woo-woo thing. It's not a fluff. It's not a belief system. It's not just new age. You are consciousness itself, and you're not going to die. Your body will die. That's going to happen. But there is nothing to fear. There is absolutely nothing to fear. And I know that that's not easy to remember when the rigor is so high, but I just really want to lift up that we need to lift up to each other when things are hard, especially. We do not have to be afraid. And we can choose love and authenticity wherever we are in whatever small way. That is very powerful. And I'm very passionate about sharing that message. So that's what I'd like to lift up.
And you do it very well.
Thank you, sir.
I want to thank you for the shared time today. It's been it's been enlightening. So
Thank
thank you.
you. It's wonderful to meet both of you. Thank you. And you again, Gary.
If you enjoyed this content, please hit like, subscribe, and ring the bell for notifications.